Welcome back, folks. Chris Temple with you again. We're going to have another interview today in our series previewing Better in Our Backyards Mining and Energy Expo. That's coming up the 1st through the 3rd of October. As you see here in the show notes, we'll have a link for those of you who haven't registered yet to be able to do so. It's a very important time for this kind of a thing in America, where we've got a lot of things underway to try and get our own house in order, get control back over our energy supplies, our critical mineral supplies, all of the appropriate food chains that go along with all of those things, much of which, of course, over the years we've outsourced to other countries. One of the things I'll be doing, besides being the MC, is I'll be running a panel specifically on copper and development stage projects. And one of the companies that we're going to be featuring is Gunnison Copper Corporation. They're an Arizona-focused company. We're going to have Robert Winton, who is the Senior Vice President for Operations and General Manager of the company, in just a second. Here's a couple of little snippets about the company. They're listed on the Toronto Exchange under the symbol GCU. Here in the US on the OTCQB under GCUMF. And to the extent that we talk specifically about Gunnison, of course, be mindful that either Rob or myself might be making some forward-looking statements, as they're called. So without further ado, I want to bring Rob Winton on here with me, and looking forward to you being on the panel too, Rob. Thanks for taking a little bit of time out of your schedule before the Labor Day weekend.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for having me. It's very exciting times, and certainly glad to join you on the panel, and excited about copper in America these days.
Well, and we're especially excited about copper in America, where there are less potential headaches. A lot of folks saw this news that I'll put on the screen here again. Seems to never end. The best known copper project right now, development stage 1, is arguably Resolution. And yet again, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in California threw a monkey wrench into things. So we got more delays and more wrangling over this, which are we going on 20 years now, Rob?
It's post 20 years, and we've got other in the state as well. We've got our friends at Hud Bay with their Copper World project, which used to be Rosemont. There's Florence as well, Florence Copper, who's thankfully just getting close to starting up. They're 17 plus year in the space trying to get their project going. So yeah, it's we're getting closer to the end of this process, but yeah, there's still some bumps along the way, if you will.
Well, it's frustrating to see that things take 20 years plus to permit. And this is at a time when we have an ever-growing national imperative for national security reasons, for economic reasons, to bring back good jobs, and all the rest of this. And we need to move this along faster. I mean, to President Trump's credit, he's issued, as we all know, a lot of executive orders to try and speed things up, but he can only do so much. We've still got the courts, we've still got regulatory bodies. And look, we've got the best policy tailwind here in the US of my lifetime. I tell people that all the time, but that and $8 will get you an overpriced cup of coffee at Starbucks. We need all the other things to go along with it, and they're moving a little slowly. But what's good about you guys, as I've been getting to learn Gunnison's story, Rob, is that your project, and you've consolidated a pretty good area in Cochise County, Arizona, pretty much a district play these days. You're getting near a development stage point yourself, and you don't have to worry about the federal government a whole heck of a lot, do you?
That is correct. When we made our transition to the open pit on the Gunnison project, we transitioned sort of out of that federal world into a fully state-run process with respect to our permitting. We do still have our EPA permit for our in-situ leach. That is sort of the basis from which the Gunnison Copper open pit has been based on. But as you mentioned, the state-run process gives us a little clearer timelines with respect to how do we get a project through the engineering phase and into development and into that permitting process and ultimately into operation. So that does help us a great deal, and it's just luck of the draw where Mother Nature put that deposit that you get to play with.
Well, that's a nice problem to have, that's for sure. So before we get into the aspects of the specific project itself, tell us a little bit about the process that consolidated this ground and where you're located and some of those attributes, Rob.
Absolutely. So yeah, we're about 55 miles from Tucson, Arizona, directly on the I-10. The I-10 actually splits the Cochise mining district. So we've got two ore bodies on the north of the interstate and one large one, the Gunnison ore body on the south of the interstate. So we're well positioned with respect to where we are in the state. Obviously in Cochise County, that does allow us some greater opportunities on the permitting side as we don't have any federal lands, we don't have any waters of the U.S. there, which is really the basis of the state permitting process.
Right.
So yeah, we're well situated. We have the Union Pacific main line about 1.5 miles on the south end of the Gunnison project. So again, from an infrastructure perspective and an ability to bring an ore body into production, Gunnison Copper has won the lottery, if you will.
That's great. And notwithstanding the problems and the roadblocks that Hud Bay and Resolution and the others are still having to deal with, you are in one of the best spots, if not the best spot in the U.S. for copper. I mean, what's the percentage these days of America's copper that comes out of Arizona even now?
I would expect it north of 70%
Yeah.
of the copper. We sort of have the Rio Tinto Kennecott Salt Lake City smelter and again some projects up in your neck of the woods in sort of Michigan sort of timeframe. But Arizona is 5Cs is sort of what built the economy, and copper is sort of at the top of those lists these days. And with 8 or 9 development projects in various stages of the process, it is certainly the hottest place to be with respect to copper, which that critical mineral is so important, as you mentioned, for our defense industry as well as the energy industry. It's absolutely critical that we get a better control of that supply chain.
Well, it's everything. I mean, I've said repeatedly that I think next these days to uranium, which is the non-gold commodity that I've been the most constructive on now for the last few years, copper is right up there as well. I mean, the long-term fundamentals for copper is screamingly bullish, even if in the recent past we've had to worry about other things affecting the price in the market that don't have anything to do with those fundamentals, but the trade issues, the dollar, are we going to have a recession? Are we not going to have a recession? And so forth. Copper is often hostage to those things, but long term, there's no question that for those things you cited and so many others, we just need more and more of it, and it just isn't there. And we need to have these projects come online. And look, even just in Arizona, let alone a few other places, in the upper Midwest here, out in Montana, Wyoming, elsewhere, we could be meeting if everything that's desired to be built was built today, and we had the labor for it, which is a whole other problem. We need that. We could meet all of our copper needs just with what we know about in this country, can't we?
That is very true. The only challenge we still have is the smelter capacity, and just
Right.
again in an American issue where there are smelters in Canada and Mexico, and if we have the foresight and the sort of the will, if you will, as the 3 nations of North America, I think we can sort of get ourselves well positioned to take back some of that smelter capacity that is transitioned to Asia, because there's a significant amount of our concentrates are needing that smelting and refining process, and we just don't have that capacity.
Right.
And there's a lot of innovation, obviously, in the industry now to try and improve that process and be able to treat these difficult ores more advanced, if you will, from a chemistry perspective and a bacteria perspective, and be able to produce that finished copper right here in America and not have to rely on those smelters, which again, the logistics and the amount of money required to get concentrate across the ocean and then bring that finished copper back to America is certainly well understood. And I think what drove some of those tariff conversations earlier is how do we incentivize the American mining organizations to get finished copper being produced more readily here in America.
Well, that has to come in time, and I'm glad you brought up the subject, and I want to visit with you more about this when we're in person with one another just over a month from now. These kind of newfangled methods that are out there where you can recover copper from some concentrates without using the traditional smelter. I mean, there's bacteria, there's hydrometallurgy, there's all different kinds of stuff that's being improved, and science is going to help. It's going to be one of the things I think that'll help get us out of this. But let's go into the specifics of the Gunnison project. Tell us a little bit about that and the ore body, the grades, what you envision now for the recoverability and the timeline. I know this is all a lot in one question for hopeful development.
That's quite right. So yeah, the Gunnison project, which is certainly the biggest value driver in our organization, is again, we transitioned from the in situ leaching process that we were running in the early 2020s, and we went to that open pit We did that in November of last year. Fundamentally, what drove that sort of timing was the acquisition of the land we needed for that bigger project. So yeah, that open pit project, as we sit here today, is an 18-year project. There's well over about 600 million tons of ore in that. It grades about 0.35, 0.38, somewhere in there. And we're open at the bottom. We've never really explored the sulfide as any of the previous technology plays that we were looking at. We only could treat the oxide ore, which is sitting at the top of that ore body. So by opening up the open pit, we've now exposed some significant exploration upside later in that mine life. But as we sit here today, again, 18-year mine life, we got about 170 million pounds of copper is our current SX-EW plant design. And again, at $4 copper, that's 350 million a year in free cash flow. So a very good project. And sort of what allows us to get there is what's right behind me is as we just started up our JCM project, which is our Newton partnership, the Rio Tinto technology play. As you mentioned, this bacteria conversation is really, we've become the first demonstration site for the Newton technology. And we have started up that process. We began construction last July. And as you sit here beside me over my shoulder is one of our first cathodes. We pulled our first cathode this week, produced about 220,000 pounds of finished grade copper. And again, direct for the US market. So very exciting times as we ramp up the JCM project in preparation for the Gunnison project, which again is really what's going to drive the value in our organization at Gunnison Copper Corp.
So ultimately, just to use round numbers, and we'll also have folks along with this video, a link to Gunnison's website so you can look at a lot of this stuff for yourself, but you're going to have free cash flow of roughly 4 times your current market cap.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Yes, yeah, well, the valuation of our organization is some would argue is slightly under our peers, and
yeah.
it's been a real big challenge for us to really get the story out there. As we believe we have an excellent project, we believe we fit in there nicely with our peers, and the one advantage we do have is that we're going to be a junior producer. Again, we're going to be producing 25 million pounds per year of copper over the next 3 to 4 years as we work to develop that larger Gunnison project.
And that's just one example of many folks about how not only do you have companies like this that are ready to step up and help us to close this gap as America and ultimately Canada, and I think our whole hemisphere looks to bring more stuff back home and have this, Ontario's Premier Doug Ford calls it Fortress AmCan. A lot of people call us the Don Road Doctrine that we're going to have, trotted out here. And I think we already are to some extent. It's an economic and security imperative. And so you've got companies like Gunnison folks ready to step up. And yet, from an investment standpoint as well, these are companies that you could argue are just screaming, stupidly cheap in the marketplace. I mean, I think that's one of those forward-looking statements we had the slide up about before. But anyways, we can talk more about that later on. So Rob, one last thing. How did you, just out of curiosity, first become familiar with Better in Our Backyard?
Our CFO actually attended an event earlier this year and spoke very highly of it. And there's no greater sentiment with respect to the mining industry than Better in Our Backyard, the ability to educate the public on the importance of it. I've run 3 smelting operations in 3 different parts of North America, and I take the importance of those organizations in the community so critical. So to be able to contribute and attend and learn from others in our industry, I think is a very exciting thing that I'm looking forward to is Better in Our Backyard. There's no better. You stole the market with respect to great names. As it is so critical for us in our future as a nation and as a continent that we really secure these critical minerals. And Better in Our Backyard is doing their part to help bring the public along.
Well said. I'm excited for what you're doing at Gunnison, Rob, and happy that you're part of Better in Our Backyard as well as the upcoming Expo. I'm looking forward to meeting in person at last and having you on a panel, breaking bread and so forth along the way during the conference. And folks, once again, if you've not already registered, whether you're an investor, whether you're an engineering company, whether you're interested in the labor and workforce opportunities in these extractive industries, if everybody plays their cards right, and again, we have the great policy tailwind and great intentions now, unlike anything we've had in my lifetime, you should come check this out. This is going to be the future. I'll share it here real quick, which I do from time to time, looking at this from an investment standpoint. The old saw is that you know a story has been played out when your shoe shine boy and cab driver talk about it. You know, so what we have had these days is everybody gaga over the latest cryptocurrency and stable coin and meme stock and AI stock. And right now you get into Uber these days, I guess more than a taxi. That's what you're going to hear about. Several years from now, the story is going to be this right here. And that is the same Uber driver or taxi driver is going to be saying, hey, did I tell you about all the critical metal stocks I bought? So from whatever perspective you're coming from, folks, this is ground floor opportunity in the resurgence of extractive industries and everything that goes with it, the jobs and new technology to enable it. And I'm happy to be a part of it. Rob, I'm glad you guys are part of it and looking forward to seeing you.
No, this is very exciting times, and all of those wonderful things you talked about, they're not going to go anywhere unless we power them, and the amount of energy
Right.
that's required, which speaks highly to how do we actually power these industries, and copper is the key, and
For
all those
sure.
other critical minerals, making sure those fancy computers and systems are able to produce those meme coins for the folks. But yeah, as you said, it really starts in the ground, and it starts with the responsible mining that the organizations in America are well underway doing.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you much. Looking forward to seeing you, Rob. Take care.
Thank you, Chris. Have a great day.